Great. All right. Yeah, 7:03. We'll call the meeting to order. First up, we have the minutes from November 14th, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to go through those? Any comments or edits or changes?
No.
Yeah.
No edits.
Somebody like to make a motion to accept them as written?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. All right, first hearing. A request for determination of applicability, 38 Presidential Drive, in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw. The Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, December 5th, 2024 at 7:00 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a request for determination of applicability for a project located at 38 Presidential Drive, map 82, lot 24, for the applicant and owner, Jacob Russell. The project description is mitigation for a violation in the proposed balcony. And see, we have somebody who's joined us.
I believe it's the homeowners. Yes, okay.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. How is everyone doing?
We're doing very well, thanks. Thanks for joining us tonight. It sounds like you've been in close contact with Melissa.
We've been getting a lot of guidance from Melissa.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's fantastic. So do you want to just give us a real quick overview of where we are right now? You're proposing some, I think, a little bit of additional work since we last spoke. Geez, that was back in the summertime, I think, when you last came in.
Well, my second one was just born.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We had some sand that had that we had put in the no touch zone that had eroded into the wetland resource area. And I've since dug that out and pulled it way back and held it back with 50 to 150 pound boulders and burlap. So that is now held out of the resource area. And I pulled it back behind where the original grass line was, because there's now grass growing on the other side of the boulders, and beyond that grass, it is completely regrown and looks wild. Also, Melissa had multiple other areas that she wanted us to see if they would revegetate naturally. One of them was on a little peninsula just to the left of that area where the sand was. I had mowed with the mower some ferns back to about 15 to 16 feet from the wetlands as measured by Joe. And I've since allowed that area to grow back, and it's now about 28 feet from where Joe marked the wetlands. So we've added approximately 12 feet of, I don't know if buffer's the word, but we're now well beyond the 20 feet there. Also, there was an area looking at the front yard, just to the right of the front yard, that there had been some drought, and it wasn't and some stuff wasn't looking good, and I had run the mower through because there is some grass that grows in there. Melissa told us she wanted that to regrow as well. And that area has also regrown, and it's thigh high with thorns again now. I previously wanted to trim that, cut that down a little with the mower because of the kids, but we've managed to keep them out of there for the most part. So that area has regrown pretty well. That's an area where Melissa has just, oh good, she pulled that thing up. That's the area to the right of the pool that she's got highlighted in purple there. So that regrowth is already there. behind the house and slightly to the left, that's where the sand was. That's been pulled back and that's regrown there. And then behind the garden as marked, that we've also allowed to regrow back there. And I guess through natural means, that's got a lot of cattails in it now. Which, you know, we didn't plant cattails, but there's cattails in other areas of the wetlands behind the house. So I guess the cattail fuzz flies around and they grow everywhere. The only area Melissa's got highlighted that we've still got grass is if you go directly behind the center of the house, those wetland flags, you see the edge of lawn is on the other side of where the wetland flags are. Those are about 15 feet deeper than the wetland flags. Looking straight back from the center of the house. And that is pure lawn. There's nothing else growing there. And that's an area where we'd really prefer to just keep maintaining that as lawn. It's that area has been grass since we moved in.
Yeah.
And the area off to the southwest, that she's got highlighted in purple, that's also grass and has been and was grass when we moved in. There was a couple of dead trees that we took down over there in 2021, that have, you know, cut down on the tree cover in that area because those dead trees, I cut them down and removed them, obviously. But one of them fell. They both fell. One fell on the ground. The other fell onto another tree. So that is a little bit more clear than when we moved in, but it was always grass. And when we moved in, that grass was quite overgrown because the fallen tree was blocking the path to get back there from the landscapers' mowers. So that they hadn't been mowing it for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months at least when we moved in.
Maybe
So
longer than that because that house wasn't really occupied for a while.
yeah, well, so that area was grassed, but we're certainly willing to discuss whatever the commission finds is prudent. We've also been able to the area where we added 12 feet is about where the 3 in 38 Presidential is. So that's an area that we've allowed to revegetate beyond the 20-foot no touch zone that Melissa doesn't actually have highlighted there. So we've actually got another area there that's revegetated that's not highlighted. Anyway, I think that's a good summation of what we've got going on as far as the violations and the regrowth goes. So the plans, if you look to the southwest property boundary, we'd like to do a rock wall just from the right of way, as we call it from my part of the country, back to the no touch line. We don't want to take that beyond the no touch line because we know that would require an NOI. And we'd like to do the same on our northwestern boundary in the area that's currently grass. And that one will end at the edge of the lawn, the tree line, which is that green line there. So the one to the right, we won't have to take any trees down for that one. The one to the left, I think 2 or 3 at most, but there could be a sapling or something. So I told Melissa it'll be 4 or less, to put in that rock wall. Looking straight behind the house, there's a yellow rectangle. That's where we want to put a playground set for the kids. Just a swing set, kind of thing with, like the timber, little fort thing and stuff that you get it, you order or get through Costco or whatever we can get a good deal on. And then to the right of that, we've got a path between our existing patio and the octagonal barbecue pad. Because of all of the foot traffic going to our garden back there from our house, that grass is already beaten down really bad and not growing well because my in-laws literally spend hours and hours in that garden every day. So we'd like to put a path in there so their shoes don't get so muddy and stuff walking between there, because once they get to the patio, then they're coming straight into the house, and the grass isn't growing well there anyway. But that's a flat area. Melissa mentioned grading. That's not going to require any grading. It's flat between the patio and the barbecue pad. And let's see. Oh yeah, and then to the right of there, behind the pool filter, we've got 2 boxes there. I think the current plan that we'd like to have is a chicken coop, and if the town agrees to it, perhaps a duck coop. But it's also possible, if they don't want to let us do a duck coop, we could do a storage shed for some of the garden tools back there. So we just wanted to get permission to put 2 little structures back there behind the pool filter. Not houses or guest houses or anything, no plumbing or anything like that. Just a little, just a chicken coop, duck coop, or storage shed.
A small one. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So I'll start off here, just a couple of quick questions. The stone walls that you're talking about building, are you envisioning some excavation to get some sort of footing down beneath the wall? Or is this more sort of an ornamental sort of stacking rocks on top of the existing ground? And
I was thinking more stacking rocks on top of the ground.
Okay.
I mean, we're open to input from the commission. The one to the southwest does have a steep part where it's it drops off a little bit close to the street. So that one, I'm not an expert on rock walls and how they're constructed. I don't know if they can go down a steep slope without some kind of a stepped footing, but maybe they can. I honestly, I haven't researched it enough. I don't know enough. I just know we had a quote from a landscaper that he would do it for like $20 to $30 a foot. So
the only reason I ask is because of its, it's within the buffer zone and getting close to the wetland. If there's excavation involved, then you just have to take some measures to make sure that you're not getting any erosion or sedimentation into the wetland, small wattles and so forth, which we can absolutely condition. It's not a problem.
Sure.
But I was just asking, if the intent wasn't to do any excavation at all, that makes it even easier because there'd be no impact and really no chance of impact.
I haven't gone that deep into the plan with our hardscaping guy, and admittedly, I'll probably either be helping him with it or because I don't know how to build a rock wall, but I'll probably either be helping him with it or he'll coach me through it, and if you can condition it on putting wattles in the event that we need to dig out a little bit to create footings, then I totally understand on that.
Okay. And similarly, with the two structures, the 2 coops or a coop and a shed,
Oh, that'll just be a gravel pad with
Okay.
with it on sitting on top of it.
Sure, and so the gravel pad, you'll probably be doing a little bit of excavation to get a level area before you put down your gravel? Is that?
I don't have to. I can put it right on top and then
Okay.
use a hand compactor on it, if that helps.
Okay. So just in placing the gravel, I think we would need to see, wattles along the downhill, between the gravel pad and the wetland area, just during the placement of the material and the compaction and so forth.
Okay.
In case we get a huge rain event or whatever, before the structures get put on the pads, we don't want it washing down into the wetland.
I'm gonna use the big 1 to 2 inch rock. I'm not gonna use
You
bead
use
rock.
crushed stone, perfect.
So
Absolutely.
it like that rock, I mean, it's possible something could move, but it doesn't usually move with rain.
Now, when you said gravel, I was picturing something with a range of gradation from fine stuff up to a larger size, but just.
Oh, that's my mistake. I
Great.
misspoke on that. Yeah, I'm gonna use the big gray rock.
Yep, perfect.
Because that one holds. If I use pea gravel, then even after a year, I could take the wattle away and it could still erode.
Right. And then the path between the barbecue area and your back door. Have you settled on what kind of material you're going to use for that?
We're just gonna use the some kind of brick or concrete paver.
Okay.
But we're open to input if, I mean, it's in an area where I don't think we would need like a permeable stone or anything, but
But
we could.
the only reason I ask has to do with erosion and sedimentation. So, typically with something like that, there is some excavation to put a base down. I don't know, different companies use different types of materials, but everything from stone dust to dense grade material, whatever. But to give a stable base to put the path on, so you don't get all kinds of settlement in your pavers or bricks or whatever you choose. So
Yeah, I'll probably use rock dust and then crushed rock and
There you go.
and then put it on top of there.
So and you're gonna have to dig down some in order to make room for that. So there'll be a little bit of stockpiling and so forth. So that will need to have wattles between the work and the wetland along the downhill edge of things.
No problem. Yeah, that'll be probably about 5-6 inches. I'll dig down.
Yep.
To do that. No problem.
Yep, perfect. And it probably goes without saying, but the spoils from that, you will have some extra material. So, obviously it can't just be, sort of wheelbarrowed off into the woods and dumped next to the wetland or whatever. I know you wouldn't do that, but it has to go to a place where there's not going to be a risk of sedimentation to the resource areas.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I neglected to mention, I'm sorry. The thing that kicked all this off, we're attempting to put a balcony off the back of the garage that's gonna require 3 footings that are 2 feet by 2 feet each, approximately 10 feet behind the garage.
Okay. And these would be concrete footings?
Yeah, there'll be sono tubes.
Okay, yep.
And that they'll be buried in the ground.
Yep.
But they'll be up on the retaining wall area.
Okay.
And one of them will be on the ground, 2 will be on the retaining wall area, 1 will be on the ground level in the flower bed just behind the back door.
Okay. Okay.
But
So-
that shouldn't, I can do a wattle if you want, but that area is flat and it's in a flower bed, so there shouldn't be any risk of sediment flowing into the wetlands there.
Okay, I would defer to Melissa on that one. I haven't been out to your property myself and seen it firsthand, but I know Melissa has tons of experience with it. So if she feels that it's fine without, that's great, or if she thinks a wattle or 2 might be required there, I'm very comfortable deferring to Melissa on that.
Is it okay if I buy like a couple of wattles and I just move them around to these different areas as we do the different projects?
Absolutely, as long as they stay, in relatively good shape, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so that's what I have. Anybody else in the commission, questions, comments, thoughts you'd like to share? The one thing we haven't addressed is there are some areas where there's mowed lawn, not just within the no touch, but actually within the wetland area itself. And that's something we'll have to discuss.
Yeah, directly behind the house, there's area that's mowed lawn that's beyond the wetland flags, as marked.
Hey, just one quick question, Kevin. I know you're about to speak. I'm sorry. Just one very quick question. When did you move into the house? When did you purchase the house? Do you recall?
2020, late 2020.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Kevin. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask about, you had mentioned you were gonna be taking trees down for that stone wall. What are you gonna be doing with the stumps? Are they gonna be ground? Are they gonna be dug out with an excavator or? Left in place?
Stones?
Stumps?
Oh, I mean, we were
Oh, no.
gonna pay
Yeah,
for
the stumps.
stones the stumps.
Yeah,
I'm open to input, but I was figuring the best thing to do is probably to get them cut off as low as possible, and then use the biological enzyme to try to get them to break down naturally to feed the soil.
that would be great. That's a lot less disturbance. So, I don't know if we have any concerns about the biological enzyme in buffer zones, but
I think it's usually potassium nitrate, which increases bacterial growth, and it's found in fertilizer. So I mean, it's I don't know. Melissa, is a potassium nitrate to help a stump break down a problem?
I'm not as familiar with the use of it, so I'd have to look into it a little bit, but it's something that we can, condition, or if we, are concerned. I'm just not as familiar with the use.
I've used it before and had good luck with it. It takes a while for it to work, but to get the best efficacy out of it, you have to drill a series of holes into the stump. You fill them up with this. The product is called Stump Out, and because you're inserting it directly into the stump, it tends to stay, I would think, very localized within the stump area because you've drilled into the stump and sort of compacted it in there. You're not just
Exactly.
sprinkling it on top where rain's going to wash it off and so forth.
Yeah, no, you got to drill 8-inch holes.
Yeah.
To drop it in. Yeah.
Um,
And sometimes like you do it, and if the stump's too tall, then you cut it off again and you do it again. But I'm gonna try to get the trees cut off at a level to where I only have to drill it and put the potassium nitrate in at once.
Thank you. All right, Kevin, Melinda, anything else like I said, we still have to discuss these mowed areas within the no touch and within the wetland itself. And so a question for you, Melissa. The reason I asked, of course, when they purchased the house, I learned something new a couple of meetings ago with the property over on Sears Road. Our timing here on these areas, if they've been previously mowed, how does that fall out here?
So I do, and I'll pull up, I did make some aerials from when we first started talking about this, when it was a violation. So kind of, it was a little bit more difficult to see, but this is kind of the 2023 work that was going on, just kind of this clearing.
Okay.
So, to me, it looked like that there was some expansion of lawn areas, but there's also, in this case, because it stems from a violation, you can put more restrictive conditions upon it. So you could put, you technically, it's a different situation than Sears Road, essentially, because this is working off of a violation. So if there are areas of mitigation to address the violation, and, to get it back to an approved limit of work or wherever you guys think is adequate to address, even the other work that's going on, then that's within your right at this time.
Can we-
Yes.
Thank you.
I did
guess,
have a question. I remember last summer when we were talking about the areas that it sounds like they've grown in quite a bit. There was talk about adding native plants, and at one point, Melissa, it might have even been winter because we're talking about winter sow for small plants that you could put in the areas. If there's regrowth, I'm wondering what is growing and is it invasive or native? And should there be more of an effort to ensure that the right kind of vegetation is getting established?
It's definitely not growing back with invasives, which is good. I think what the commission ended up allowing was some fruit trees, so not necessarily straight natives. The property owners do kind of use the land as part of, their daily life in terms of food production too. So we had some allowance with that with some fruit trees. So I don't think did you guys end up putting in blueberry bushes or were there already some there? I can't remember that part.
Am I unmuted or am I muted?
You're unmuted.
Okay. The areas where we were looking at putting the bushes in, they grew back with, I'm not a plant expert, but they grew back pretty thick with stuff, and I didn't want to tear it out to plant other stuff. It seemed like everything just kind of grew back pretty strong. I mean, it's particularly the area where the sand had been, like it grew back so bushy, like I would have had to dig stuff out by the roots to put something new in there. So I didn't want to do that. And I know you all
And also,
yeah.
two friends came to our house and even commented on,
Yeah.
did we purposefully grow those in the
Yeah.
backyard?
we were asked if we planted the stuff in that area, but no, it grew back real strong, and the cattails grew back like across a good portion of this purple area back behind the octagonal barbecue pad, like probably 20 feet each way, back behind that. And there had been a few cattails before, but boy, they got really dense. So we did allow probably about 3 or 4 feet of cattails to grow into where it had been lawn before, and I had been mowing it before. But the cattails only grew so much that the cattails, I guess, want a certain amount of moisture, so that the cattails wouldn't grow uphill. But the flatter area right before it drops off even more down there, the cattails grew in. And if I could, and I know what we've got to work off is aerials here. If I could supply something to maybe help everybody, we did manage to locate a bird's eye photo that'll show you that the lawn had previously extended beyond the tree line. If I could get permission to share my screen and figure out how that works, sweetheart.
Yeah, you should be able to hit the share button on the bottom.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, if you look back here, see, here's this tree, the tree line as Melissa pulled for us, and you can tell the grass line went well beyond the tree line. And this aerial now. This house wasn't maintained for a decade before we bought it. It was not occupied by the owners. There was a couple of doctors that worked at UMass in Worcester and had a condo over there. They used this house for whenever their relatives would visit from Iran, and they would put them all up in this house for as long as their visitor visa was for. And then the house would sit vacant for a long period of time. And that they had some disputes with the garbage pickup company, so there was garbage scattered in around like this area behind the pool and stuff like that over there. And over here behind the pool, this is where we want to do our chicken coop over here. And you can tell that when before they got it, this area was mulched. and was maintained back here. And when we got it, there was a whole lot of garbage back here. And there was a little bit of overgrowth around the garbage, but it got torn up as I was cleaning all the garbage and debris out of there. Same thing with several other areas, including this area behind the pool here. There's just piles and piles of garbage back there. It filled up our garbage cans many times in that first year after we moved in. But what I wanted to focus on is back here. You see this grass extends way beyond the tree line. So, and probably beyond where it is right now even. But since then we've now got cattails growing across a good portion of it. And they've eaten their way into the grass, probably 3 or 4 feet. And this grass line looks further back than it was when we got the house anyway. So I just wanted to supply this to provide the context that the aerial of the tree line wasn't necessarily the grass line whenever we moved into the house. I don't want to take the floor for any longer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm a little uncomfortable with the actual wetland area being lawn, but I'm curious how Kevin and Melinda feel about that as well.
Can we see it again?
So it's clear the lawn existed certainly through the no-touch, and it looks like into the wetland area for some time. You know, we are talking here about mitigation for some violations. I guess just for my part as one commissioner, I'm uncomfortable with you know, maintaining lawn within an actual wetland area. But
I agree with that.
Yeah, same. It seems like the cattails are trying to grow back, so it really wants to be wetland down there.
yeah.
We let the cattails grow back or grow where they wanted to grow. I haven't been trimming back the cattails because I think they look good. So like the area where the cattails has grown, we've given 4 or 5 feet of lawn, and the cattails grew dense enough so that I think it's going to choke out the grass.
Yeah, oh, I would think so. It sounds like we have agreement from both Goddard Consulting and Lucas Environmental with Joe Orzel that there is a wetland that does exist back there. And it sounds like the sentiment of the commission here is that we are it's something we run into around town. This is a requirement we've made of others as well. Maintaining lawn within a wetland area really is something we have a lot of trouble with. As far as the 20-foot no-touch, it's clear that that's been maintained for some time. And I don't see that there's any mitigated value to trying to renaturalize that. But I think the wetland itself, it sounds like the commission, the 3 of us here, really do feel like the wetland area itself has to be a wetland rather than a mowed lawn.
Agreed. And it's great to hear that the cattails are growing back and that's part of what's happening. But I agree with Ben.
Thank you, Melinda.
The wetland flag right now is it comes about 10 feet into where we've got grass, even beyond the cattails. And that's been grass, I mean, since we got the house, and obviously a decade before that, because that's when that bird's eye photo's from. So like if I stopped mowing it, like nothing else grows there but grass. I don't know how would I do that?
I mean, there's a whole range of things, and the least impactful, to you folks as a family is to, as you describe it, is to stop mowing it. It doesn't sound like there's sentiment for reestablishing a wetland, you know, through wetland plantings and so forth. But you know, we have two sets of consultants now that agree that it is a wetland. And that means that the groundwater hydrology and the topography, in this case, will support a wetland and or are indicative of a wetland, and the vegetation through time will reestablish wetland vegetation because of the groundwater hydrology and the topography of the area.
So even though that was maintained as lawn when we moved in, it predates our ownership. It had been maintained as lawn for a long period of time. We can't continue maintaining it as lawn.
That's correct. It was unfortunately the you know, a violation that was that had taken place prior to your purchase of the property.
And
And
it's, sorry, Ben, not to cut you off, but it's not necessarily a violation that happened before you became even the ownership, but it's also you are proposing work now on top of kind of the violation, and that kind of allows the commission to have some jurisdiction in terms of mitigation or areas to make sure that the property is compliant. You know, we do have, you know, kind of to correspond with what you were saying, you know, this lawn did come back here a little bit. But all of this was also kind of wooded area, you know, which now kind of has been cleared of that wooded type, you know, and over here is kind of expanded. It's not just this little loop that's come out. So while it may have been maintained as lawn in the past, there's a lot of other areas and wetlands change size over time. So it's not necessarily, you know, when this was done, it's possible that the wetland line was kind of back in this area and has now since grown. So because you're now proposing work, you need to, you know, kind of comply with today's standards, which if that qualifies as a wetland resource area, then, you know, the commission needs to treat it as such, which are local regs, you know, kind of require that unmaintenance essentially of the lawn area because you're doing new project and upgrades to the property.
both are, yeah, local regs, the State Wetlands Protection Act, and also, you know, we have to be consistent with our past practice on this, which is we've enforced these regulations, you know, on you know, on many property owners through the 10 or 12 years that I've been on the commission here. We've got to be consistent with that practice.
I understand completely. I was a little bit confused because it was my understanding after the first meeting that if it had been previously maintained as lawn, we could continue maintaining as lawn. But now I understand that because we're proposing work, that gets taken away. I understand.
Yeah, and again, we're not talking about the 20-foot no touch. We're talking only the wetland area itself. I know you'd like not to lose any of it, but you know, we're not talking about bringing it all the way back within the 20-foot no touch as well. So just to make that clear.
Yeah, well, I understand. I'm a little bit worried about how high that, you know, it's just going to be, you know, 2-3 foot tall fescue that's going to lay down, and you know, it's not going to look great for a while. And you know, I may need to find some wetland plants Melissa likes that we can plant there to just make it not grass.
You know, you mentioned have been made previously of blueberries. You know, high bush blueberries are a facultative wetland species, as I understand it, right, Melissa? And
we can do blueberries.
Are
we
also
like blueberries. Delicious.
So, you know, one possibility there are, Melissa can help you out if there are plantings that you want to do there that are wetland species, that would be entirely appropriate within that area. And if it's something that you're also able to use as a food source, I think that'd be fantastic.
The kids love blueberries. We're happy to do that.
Okay, fantastic. So with that, it sounds to me like with the appropriate conditioning here, which we've discussed, we'd be able to issue a negative determination which would allow you to go forward with the work, you know, as we've discussed here tonight. So just to make sure we're all on board with the conditions here are, we discussed with the walls, and the walkway. I think those were the two main areas, straw wattles where excavation is taking place. And the wattles have to remain until the, you know, disturbed ground has been revegetated, if there is disturbed ground, or stockpiles have been moved out of the area or so forth. And then, as you had said, the wattles can be moved from work site to work site as you go along, as long as the netting is still holding together, by all means, reuse them. The wetland itself is going to be allowed to renaturalize. Wetland plantings may be placed within that area in consultation with Melissa. I think she can help you out with some ideas. And one last thing.
We want to give it a chance. If I don't mow it and something other than grass grows up in there, then you know, maybe after, give it a year or something and see if something else pops up. And
Yeah.
you know, then we won't have to plant anything. But you know, if we go 2-3 years and it's just grass growing up to knee high and falling over every year,
Sure.
and there's nothing else growing, then I feel like we you know, we'll probably want to put something there.
Yeah, so my recommendation would be maybe give it 2 years, because the negative determination will be good for 3 years.
Okay.
So that would still give you some time within this permit, that would allow you to do that work. If that makes sense? If you
Okay.
do decide to go in and do some plantings in there.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. One last thing, I forgot to bring it up, the chickens and ducks, if you end up doing that as well. I'm guessing they will be somewhat free range. You're not talking about fencing in a huge area for them. I didn't hear any discussion of that, so and that's absolutely fine. I think one condition that we would have to add is that the any manure generated within the coops when you're cleaning them out.
Oh, that goes straight to the garden.
Exactly.
That's
Okay.
for the vegetable garden.
Okay, yep. As long as it's not being, you know, placed in or adjacent to the wetland, it's being used.
Oh, no, that's gold for us.
Okay. And that's all I have. Kevin, Melinda, did I miss any of the conditions?
No.
And I would also just maybe put in there just, you
Mention
know,
the pillars. I think the pillars are of the least concern, it seems
Yeah.
like.
but just kind of maybe notification of, you know, prior to the start of each phase of work, just so we can
Okay.
make sure, you know, something similar. So you guys just contact me when you're about to start one of the projects so we can make sure your erosion controls are set, and things like that.
Perfect. And so Melissa, you can write up that condition. Okay. So with all that discussion, I guess next up I'm sorry. There are people here joining us from the public. If there's anyone here from the public who's joined us here tonight for this matter, who would like to speak on it, please use the raise hand function and we will promote you up so you can ask a question or make a comment.
No hands.
Okay, no hands. With that, I'm looking for a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for this project, conditioned as discussed.
Negative's good, right?
Negative's good, yes, yes.
So moved.
And a second?
Second,
There's a new.
Barrington,
yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so negative means a positive determination would mean that an RDA is not enough and we'd be requiring a full notice of intent application. So the negative determination is what you're looking for here,
Excellent.
right?
so
Well,
I'll send
listen,
that on the
Thank you
building.
so much for joining us tonight.
Thank
So
you.
much for the guidance.
And Melissa will be in touch.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay, next up. notice of intent, stormwater management permit, 26 Meadow Lane. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, and the provisions of the Southborough Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, Southborough Town Code, Chapter 154. The Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, December 5th, 2024 at 7:10 PM via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent and a stormwater management permit for a project located at 26 Meadow Lane, map 56, lot 14, for the applicant William Poutre. The project description is the construction of a flexible development with 3 single-family units and 1 duplex unit. And I understand that the applicant has requested a continuance because we have not yet received the stormwater peer review.
Correct. We also, I think at the last meeting, we had already had our Lucas review, but they're still working on that. So they got the isolated wetland by the runway surveyed. So they're waiting for that survey plan to finalize that and get that completed. So no new plans yet. And with no Fuss and O'Neill comments, they've requested a continuance.
Okay, so with that, we just need a motion to continue to our next public meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Good second.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Yes. Okay, moving along. Notice of intent, 120 Turnpike Road. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, December 5th, 2024 at 7:20 PM via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 120 Turnpike Road, map 37, lot 120-4 for the applicant FD 120 Turnpike LLC. The project description is the construction of a 60-unit apartment building. And I understand that plans have not been put together yet. I'm capturing all the changes that have been discussed with various town bodies. So this applicant also is requesting a continuance.
And they have been working with Lucas Environmental, both from the 40B side and moving forward to the NOI. There's an isolated area that's a hill seep that was depicted smaller on the plans than they reviewed in the field. So they're still waiting for those survey plans to come up or come back as well. But there has been kind of progress with Lucas Environmental in things that are finally directly related to the NOI. So they are, and I have let them know that to ensure that their next submission is a complete package. So not just plans, but they need to revise their NOI, narratives, etc. So I'm hoping we'll have that for the next meeting on January 2nd.
Okay. Great.
Famous last words.
So, and it just occurred to me, just a quick question, I think I know the answer to it. So they've received their comprehensive permit from the ZBA.
They have not received it yet. The hearing has been closed. The ZBA is going to be deciding on the decision on the 11th.
Okay, so they have not officially
Correct.
waived our local wetlands bylaw yet, but you can probably expect that to be coming. Okay.
And it's my understanding, I think Chris Lucas also sent to the ZBA proposed conditions that would be in line kind of with what the commission typically requests. I haven't seen them myself, but I think at least we have somewhat of a source in our back corner, trying to keep
Right.
those things rolling.
Oh, good. All right, we'll see what comes of that. I don't mean to be cynical, it's sort of, this is the way these things usually go, is the local bylaws just get cast aside. With that, all we need is a motion to continue to our next public meeting. So moved.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Barrington, oops, sorry.
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
And yes, for me.
it's very exciting with 3.
Okay, all right. So next up, newer continued business. Do we have someone here from Recreation talking about, again, trying to find a way to use this funding to get a dog park built?
Yes, I think we have both the rec director and some members of recreation, so they're loading in.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, Travis, I'm sorry, I can't turn my camera on quite yet, but I should be accompanied by Don Dumont, our Recreation Commissioner, and Jen Hansen, our Recreation Commission Chair as well.
Yep,
Great.
we're both here.
Awesome. Yeah,
Good evening.
well, sorry.
Oh, no, so yeah, I took a quick look at the Activitas plan that they had sort of sketched out a concept of a dog park at here we are at Breakneck Hill. And we'd had a really brief discussion earlier. I understand there is some funding available that if not spent, will go away. And neither the town nor the DEP, oh, this is so frustrating, can put their hands on the final sign off on Lundblatt Field. So I understand you're in a mad scramble trying to find a way to use these funds to get a dog park built. Do I have that more or less correct?
That sums it
Yeah.
up pretty well. Yes.
And I'd also just say, I mean, like the dog park's part of our master plan. It's like something that's been there for a while. So the grant, we are already approved for the grant. We just need a location and a final design. And then we will get the funding for this. So that's kind of like a little bit of the frustration is like, we've already gone through the process and got pre-approved for this grant. We just need a place to put a dog park to meet our master plan vision. And that's what we're looking for. Cause it would be a shame to lose out on, potentially $250,000 for a free dog park.
Oh, yeah.
Because the grant's closing, it will be gone. It will no longer be available. So then if we come back looking somewhere to put a dog park in the future, we're gonna have to pay out of pocket for it. So
And,
we're just trying to exhaust all of our options and see if we can think creatively.
No, I understand. And that future ask, if it comes about, will come after the town has asked taxpayers for a
Yes.
pretty hefty funding
Yes.
package for the schools, which may create something of a headwind.
Yes.
So with that, and looking at the Activitas plan, and going back over some past work that had been done there, there's a large wetland area that runs parallel to Breakneck Hill Road that,
Yeah.
and I think the dog park is actually partially within a wetland itself.
So I guess the one thing, maybe the thing I'd say is like, I almost think it's like it's less about the placement. So like it's more about like maybe if we just focus on the concept of like what the dog park could be. And I know we have some other renditions when we're looking on Lundblad, right, where we had the dog parks and we had like shoot, Dawn, what is
It was
the
called
word?
a pollinator garden.
Yeah.
I guess it's something called a pollinator
Pollinator
garden.
garden.
Right. Yeah, we're trying to put in a pollinator garden up there and like some benches and sitting space. So there's like different options we can do. So I guess for this mock-up, I would
This is
not
a
be
yeah.
attached
This
about
is a
where it's
depiction.
put.
Yeah.
But
Understood.
more about like, look, we could have like some greenery, we could plant, we could bring
Yeah.
in like seating, stuff like that. We'd make a pathway. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think last time I came, I didn't really come with a lot, so I wanted to make sure this time I gave the Conservation Commission some sort of vision of what it could potentially look like. We're not tied to that particular location in any way, shape, or form. I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what it could look like anywhere. I think everybody thinks of dog parks, it could be so broad as like a massive football field fenced in area, and that's not the case. I just wanted to give everybody something to see. That's all.
Understood. And the fact is, unofficially, Breakneck Hill Farm is in many ways our community's sort of unofficial dog park.
I will say I went there twice over the last like 3 or 4 weeks, and it's been dog park central. So
it really is. I've taken my dogs there as well. So I guess
I'd just say, I think that, I whether or not a lot of dogs and families benefit from that land, in its current state, that we all enjoy it, it's very different from having a formal dog park. And I have deep reservations about dedicated conservation land being converted into a formal dog park. We have been working, and Kevin could speak to this, really trying to restore a lot of the native plant life and frankly, bobolinks and other animal life that really aren't compatible with even more dogs roaming freely across the conservation land. So while I love the idea of having a dog park in town, and I really do, I love dogs. We were watching the dog show on Thanksgiving. I don't think this is the place for a dog park.
Thank you, Melinda.
Yeah,
I
think-
have some practical, I'm sorry, Kevin, were you speaking?
Oh, no, sorry, I was just gonna say, I think the fact that they're enclosed dog parks, looking at the state regulations, these turn it into active recreation. And I think under conservation land, we're only allowed to have passive recreation, so even if it was a good location, I think our hands would be tied either way, because taking this land out of the restrictions on passive recreation, turning it into active recreation would require us to pretty much do an Article 97 disposal of the property. And
We were able to find other conservation land in Massachusetts that have dog parks on them. So I think it's a valid concern, but I think that would require some research. And we did evidence at least one location on the Cape that has placed a dog park on conservation land.
We would need to have a discussion with start by having a discussion with town council on this topic. I'm familiar with the area of the law that Kevin's talking about. We've certainly run into this with other town properties and properties where we hold conservation restrictions and so forth.
Mhm.
And for my part, I have some practical concerns. First, there is obviously very broad support for a dog park here in Southborough. And the instant that an official dog park opens up, it will, I am confident, see very heavy use. The amount of parking present at Breakneck Hill right now on a nice, especially a nice sunny day in the fall or spring, is occasionally inadequate as it is. But if there was an actual dog park on the parcel, the Breakneck Hill itself would be lined both sides with cars. I mean, I don't think it's an exaggeration to expect on a nice Saturday or Sunday, 50 or 60 people showing up with their dogs for a dog park. Which is why I was so excited about Lundblad Field. My God, on the weekends, there's a sea of parking there that would be, I understand there's practical problems there as well with this frustrating paperwork situation. But that's my practical concern. And then more of a structural concern, I agree with Melinda. The town has, over the last 25 years, invested an incredible amount of effort in restoring habitat on this parcel. When the parcel was purchased, it was described by a state official as the worst bittersweet infestation in the entire Commonwealth. It was for most of the property, the first 12 feet elevation wise of vegetation growth. This is just a solid wall of bittersweet. The pictures I've seen are phenomenal. The amount of work that's been done to restore the habitat here, to bring in grassland nesting species, to create pollinator habitat. I have trouble in my mind, as you know, we are the sort of custodians of this property, taking such a hard U-turn on what's been done on the property so far. So those are my biggest concerns with it.
So one of the questions we had as we were sort of brainstorming, as you might expect, trying to figure out what we could do, is with the work that's been done most recently to clean up a section of this property, would that have been a target location to put the park in, given what's been going on there historically and what you've had to do there. So is there an opportunity to, you know, leverage that investment, as you mentioned, the town has made to clear that up
Yeah.
and repurpose it for another solution? That was, I know, the picture that was given was really just, as Travis said, was just meant to give you a sense of it's not a big wide open space, it's two
Sure.
fenced in areas. And so it's unfortunate if it sort of, you know, we weren't trying to disrespect the wetlands that were there or anything like that. It was really just meant to give you an image, so sometimes an image helps. But one of the things we thought of was, were you doing the cleanup? Was there an opportunity there further up the trail? So maybe in order to get to the dog park, you actually have to walk,
Yeah.
which might make it a little bit more commitment to go there, as opposed to just driving on by and throwing your dog in the park for a bit. But again, we don't know the details and the requirements there, but just to throw that out there, that was sort of where the impetus came from. There's a disruption, there's
Yeah.
sand, there's like, is that something that we could have taken advantage of?
Yeah, and referring to where you're cleaning up the old dump is what we were like,
Yes.
what
I
is
can
that
speak to
spot
that
there?
a little bit. There's actually ironically going to be more wetlands than there are before the cleanup. So it would actually be to a detriment for you guys. The area is kind of going to be smaller than what it would have been with just all the solid waste material. So it's very steeply sloped. It goes right down to a stream. So I don't think it would be the best area. You know, even if we could bring it up to a level, it's going to have kind of a wetland running right through the middle now, because we've kind of unsurfaced a nice, loving underground stream there.
I think that the parking situation would be even more complicated, especially with the community gardens and a relatively tight parking situation there to support the gardens themselves with an onslaught of dog park traffic. I don't know how we'd manage that. A dog park, in my mind, a dog park is one thing, but placing a bunch of parking on the property, I think would be very difficult.
And even that section that's being cleaned up, it's still conservation land, right? So we'd still have all the same concerns and have to talk to town council.
Well, and that's not even talking about Breakneck Hill, and that is a narrow winding road. And
Yeah.
tough to imagine a lot more traffic coming onto that as well.
Now, Melissa, let's see. In your notes here, do I understand that you, am I imagining this, or did you put together a list of town properties that?
I just tried to come up with some ideas, not to say that they were valid or not.
Yeah.
You know, because I too agree that it would be a nice amenity to the town. I hate to say I understand the feeling of the commission and, you know, possibly where the conversation was going. So trying to find some other alternatives, you know, just from knowing certain areas. We have a lot of random tax taking parcels, just trying to figure out other ways, but I don't think a lot of them are very viable. So
Yeah, I think because Travis and I have a list of like literal, even like everything that's like not taxed, and we went
yeah,
through everything, like, and there's really not.
Yeah, we tried very hard over the last, because I personally came on in July, and I don't want to see the hard work that the commission did, and even Tim did, trying to secure this grant. So I'm literally grasping at straws. Yeah, I thought, and Melissa and Lauren have been great. Yeah, I thought some other things that we thought too were going off of Don, and mentioned the town master plan as well. I know there's some open space guidelines in there that I thought could tie into where the dog park could potentially complement conservation land with education about dog waste, options for disposal. I thought the dog park could potentially help out with that. But I understand your concerns about the parking and some of the wetland concerns as well.
Yeah, so
I have another, since we're just gonna ask because we're kind of at the end of our rope here. So maybe not like Breakneck Hill, but would there be other conservation land in town that we think might be more okay to put a dog park on, or
so I
just
even
not
looked.
conservation land at all?
I even looked at some of our other parcels, and the biggest thing that I found is almost every single one of them has a stream running along the road. So just access to the site would be a game stopper right then and there.
Okay.
But I did look at other random parcels. I think 90% of what we have is just wet. So I tried to just eliminate those.
I think that's just our town in general. You know?
It is.
Well,
I tell people we're like
25% of it's
90%
under the
water.
reservoir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was always access that
Okay.
just kind of, you looked at it and you're like, oh, that would have been so great, but you're just not going to get in.
Yeah, we have a meeting with 120 Turnpike as well. I think there's 120 Turnpike
Yes.
that's up
Yeah.
there. So we're gonna maybe try to have a meeting with them in the next week or two. But it's yeah, we're down to our last few parcels here.
Have you spoken with town council at all about the this paperwork situation?
Yeah, so
Right.
basically where we're at is that nobody can produce a certificate that should have been created. Not us or the state can produce it.
Yes.
So, but like anyone listening, like it's being tested, it's completely safe, like there's nothing wrong with the landfill. We just cannot produce the paperwork because it appears it wasn't finished. The paperwork wasn't finished. So, and this was like 20 years ago. But where we're at is if we touch that property, it's going to trigger like potentially a change of use, and we're going to be required to get a certificate. And to get it, they have to go test it, and they're going to have to like puncture the cap and all that, which we do not want to puncture that cap at all. And we're looking at it probably $150,000, we're being told, just to get a piece of paper that we should have got 20 years ago, and somewhere along the lines we forgot to dot the I's and cross the T's.
And as I understand it, the DEP was even doing post-certification inspections and so forth.
Oh yeah, we've been
Yeah.
doing all of our stuff. We're
Yeah.
all in compliance, passed every test, but nobody can produce it. So like our head of DPW has a good relationship with DEP, and they're like, we get it. So what we're trying to do is file like an official letter from our town to them,
Yeah.
saying, to the best of our knowledge, we did everything correctly. We just forgot to get the certificate, right? So
Right.
we'll have that on file with them. But for us to go now to DEP and say, now we want to put a dog park up there, they're going to say, great, now you have to get a real certificate.
Oh,
So like
Yeah.
that's where like we don't have $150,000, and
Yeah.
the commission can't justify asking the town for that right now.
of
So
course.
Yeah,
And,
and
yeah.
and the
I think
parcel is
what-
being used currently, so we would
Right.
theoretically be prohibited from using the parcel at all.
Oh,
right.
God, yeah.
So we'd
Yeah.
rather not rock that boat right now, while especially with Neary coming up, we're going to have sports fields coming offline. We're going to need Lundblad, and we don't want to be told we can't use it at all.
Yeah.
So
and the DEP, I mean, it's just going to take time too. Like we could maybe revisit this another year or two down the line and continue to look for it. But yeah, unfortunately, with the grant, we don't have the luxury of time.
Can I ask
And
one
we've
other
been
question?
looking for
It's a space that was suggested to me by somebody else in town, and the question was, is there any chunk of land available at the transfer station?
So we looked into that too, but that's not, yeah.
There's wetlands there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Surprisingly enough.
Oh, it's wetlands there. That was
Okay, just thought I'd ask.
There's some.
Yeah,
Familiar with
And
the
like what
wetlands that
little
do.
space is there, I think there's also a concern that, well, if we now repurpose that and we need like to grow a little bit there, that we'd be taking the little bit of flex space that they have. So that's why that's not on the table.
Yeah, looked at Atwood too, the old water tower. But they're doing some soil testing there. I think the select board is making a decision on that. So it's we're trying everything. It's unfortunately it's just up against it.
Oh, so is the Atwood possible still, or is
Yes.
it's a no? Okay.
Lead contamination. It has to be cleaned up.
Well, we're remediating it.
Yeah.
So, because that has some nice land to it, but.
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds like the commission really as much as we want to see a dog park, I don't see how we can fit one onto Breakneck Hill Farm onto that parcel. So gosh, I sympathize with the situation that you guys are in. It's what a disaster.
Yep. Nothing's easy, right? Nothing.
Yeah.
No, it's just, it just hate to see the grant money go to waste. Or,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
but I appreciate you guys seeing us again.
Oh, listen, anytime. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I wish we had some better news here.
Thank you for your
Cool.
time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night. Okay. Okay, next up, request for certificate of compliance, 6 Dairy Farm Lane.
Yeah.
It sounds like there've been some deviations from the plan, but not deviations that are impactful to resource areas.
No, and Vito's loading into in case we have questions. And the more I thought about it even today, I was thinking about the other properties that have been mowing up to the open space boundary and we have issued COCs. So in reality, this is actually pretty in line with the other neighbors. You know, so my only kind of thought when issuing this COC is just to notify the homeowners again, nothing is to go past or over the fence. You know, but otherwise you know, they finished all their work, everything stabilized. The new work that they did is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. So it's really just where the, you know, the fence is, but it's not within the open space easement restricted area. It's outside the 20-foot no touch. So, you know, in reality, they're kind of using the same area that their neighbors are as well. You know, so it's the more I thought about it today, the less kind of concerned I was since we did it for the subsequent lots as well.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that. Melinda, Kevin,
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Comfortable.
okay. So with that, we just need a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 6 Dairy Farm Lane.
So moved.
Thank you. In a second.
Second,
Barrington,
yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right, Vito, you're good to go.
All right, great, thank you.
Night, Vito, good to see you.
Night.
All right, another COC, 1 Andrews Way.
Yeah, this is an
Oh,
old
that's-
permit that was
yeah.
for the pool, so we just recently did an RDA for the deck. So they've come back and just filed their COC request as we've requested. So we already have the survey plan, so this was just kind of a follow-up with paperwork.
Great, and everything looks great, no
Mhm.
issues at the sites.
No,
All right. So again, just if there are no questions, comments, or concerns, looking for a motion to issue a COC for 1 Andrews.
So moved.
Thank you, and a second.
Second,
Barrington,
yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. All right, 2 East Main, so we have some progress there. You've been in touch with Mr. Venus?
Yeah, and he sent over a plan quickly this afternoon that I forwarded out. So essentially what's left, he's asking to remain because based on his calculations, that would be the required sub-base that he needs for the development. So they, in conversations with him at the last meeting, we'd asked for some sort of sketch plan, you know, to show this kind of in the meantime. And when I was talking to him, we kind of did agree that there was some benefit in waiting a little bit for the sketch plan because he didn't have his public hearing for in front of planning board until this past Monday. So, you know, I did think it was important since he does have a pass now from planning to get some, you know, feedback from both the residents and the board to see, you know, kind of which direction it was going. So I think there was some mixed discussion, you know, not bad, not good, kind of either way. It's just kind of the regular process. But, you know, based on the current plan, this 3,000 cubic yards that's left for volume would be what he needs for a sub base. So he is requesting that it's left. You know, there's some erosion controls out there on the sides. There's also, you know, we talked about there's a lot of knotweed that because it's kind of that disturbed material has flourished over time since it's been there. So we talked about kind of management of that. And, you know, we both agreed that what he had proposed and used at 84 Main along the banking, that very tight woven fabric underneath the wildflower stretch there. Really did a lot in mitigating some of that regrowth of the knotweed. So he's working that into the plan as well for when he uses that material, just in case anything does grow back. You know, but obviously still managing properly, you know, those invasives that are there, both now and in the future. So understand of those requirements, but for now, I think it's kind of what's left. He's requesting to remain, so kind of what's there is there. Definitely got rid of, you know, more than half of what was on site. The piles are a lot smaller. You know, it's kind of been regraded a little bit more flat, so it just doesn't look like lumps on the corner of the road. You know, it's not necessarily a requirement to be visually appealing, but he has kind of consolidated as much as possible, and gotten off, you know, what he could.
And the erosion controls, in your opinion, are adequate?
Yeah, I'm gonna take another look either tomorrow or next week just to double check. I haven't taken a look probably in the last 2 weeks just to make sure after all the work has been done. Because a lot of it was pretty overgrown. I couldn't even get back there very well. So now that it's a little bit more open, I should have a better availability.
Okay.
Well, and I know we have some rain coming next week too, so just double checking before that.
All right, so we've had some good progress. That's great. And he is currently working with planning to get a some sort of plan together. Sounds like he's making some headway there as well.
Yep, he's both there for site plan and I think the downtown district
Okay.
special permit.
All right, I mean, if you're comfortable with the erosion controls, then I am. Melinda, Kevin?
Agreed.
Good to me.
Okay,
Awesome.
all right, so no vote necessary there. FY 26 budget.
Yes, so we did get, so I put together 2 budgets. One that is the level funded, that's on the left, and the second includes the full-time or 35-hour position split equally between ZBA and conservation. So it is a less than $10,000 increase to get an additional 5.5 hours for this position. So, you know, I really think on paper this looks pretty great. You know, ZBA already has it budgeted for 17.5 hours because of the extra 10 a week that they budgeted for 40B purposes. So I did also put in the SharePoint quickly today, and not to kind of switch all over the place, but may not be the easiest to read this on the screen, but I put together a memo to send with our budget to the select board. And then talking with the building commissioner who prepares a ZBA budget, we agreed to kind of tag team this as well, to have kind of more of a joint front. And what I and Laura put together also included the ZBA aspects, in that even besides the 40B projects, there has been about a 3 application per year increase in ZBA regular applications, variances, and special permits. On top of that, there's a lot of new zoning initiatives, both at the state level and local level, that are coming up. We had at the state, they passed the ADU regulation by right. So the town's going to be putting in some regulations to better manage that. You know, locally, there's been a lot of talking about, you know, zoning regulations, amending them, uses, etc. It's just going to require a lot more diligence, a lot more time to keep on top of that. So not only is it a need for Concom, but it's also a clear need for ZBA as well. You know, I kind of had put in there that Concom too, you know, there's been a lot of feedback from the general community about doing just general conservation initiatives, you know, being more holistic, which was our kind of original creation with the Conservation Commission Act, you know, doing just natural resource protection. So kind of outlining those, you know, on top of the ability to do more consistent application review. You know, we've talked a lot about fees and peer review costs and trying to limit those for citizens. So it will better open up my ability to assist and review more, which I've been trying to do a lot. But also just more public outreach, more education, both for you and for the residents. And just kind of being a better support. Not less of a permitting board, but an increased ability to be more, open space, both as support to existing communities, but also kind of within our own properties. So that's what we kind of put together. If you guys are good with the budget, at least as proposed, I'm just gonna wait probably till tomorrow. I'll talk with the building commissioner again to make sure that the memo is good with him. But I would like to send in these two budgets in the memo. It's due Monday at noon, so worst case, I'll send it in on Monday. But this is kind of, I know it's kind of sad. It costs us less than $10,000. So I would hope that it's very, very well accepted. I think it's very well much needed, as we kind of pointed out at the last meeting, by both departments, not just us. So it will be a benefit holistically. And one thing, not to drag this out, but we really harped on the fact that this current position was previously a 19.5-hour solely ZBA position. So they amended a pre-existing part-time position, reduced ZBA hours, gave part of them to conservation. So it's been clear the last couple years since this position was created that ZBA also needs those full part-time hours and conservation needs those full part-time hours, which creates that full-time position. So we tried to make that very clear that, we technically didn't request any new staff time when this position was requested. It was just split between two different budgets. So this is the first increase in staff that we are technically requesting for as, a whole. So, and with it already budgeted in ZBA, it makes total sense. 5.5 extra hours. Obviously, there's benefits that are required on the financial side. But on its face within our budgets, it's very minimal.
Now, are you required to submit the two budgets, both the level funding? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
I know, it's sad, but yes.
yeah, okay.
I think it's clear that this is a well thought out budget, both of them. But that it's a tremendous value to the town to get the support for two critical areas for this level of financial investment. I think that this is a really responsible way to meet the town's needs financially.
Agreed. Yeah, we first tried this 4 years ago, I think. And we were told to come back a little bit later. Well, we're coming back and the need has done nothing but increase. It really has. So I think it looks great, Melissa.
Awesome.
Do you need or would you like a vote of support?
Yeah, if you guys want to vote to submit the budget as proposed, I think that would be perfect.
Well, then I will make the motion to approve and recommend submittal of the budget that you prepared and showed to us this evening. Is there a second?
Second?
Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Yearly goals.
Okay, so I'll go a little bit quickly through these. So these are something that I've been putting together the last couple years, not necessarily to say they're things that we have to do or things, that are the official guidelines of the year, but they help me get a better understanding and guidance of when I have time, what I should be focusing on. So I pull these both from just kind of general discussions we've had throughout the year, and then also trying to meet the tasks and objectives within the master plan and open space and recreation plan. Our open space and rec plan is going to be expiring in March 2026. So I've started just, think about that as well. I think part of these, I forget if I put it on one of these, but yeah, start to review because it takes time, it really does. And if it's something that we are going to do internal, then it takes a little bit more time. So I have we've been talking about the land use rules. I really want to get those situated the next year, have those approved and on the books so that we can start some better enforcement of our boundaries of open space properties and have a little bit more teeth and if we need to in follow-up. We've talked a lot about our wetland regs and kind of thinking about revising our fee schedule, whether it's just for peer review costs and or application costs. But I also wanted to kind of in thinking about both in times when I'm on vacation or leave, having a clear understanding both for applicants and internally kind of a workflow for which application should be sent for peer review, but also kind of what application should be submitted in general, RDA versus NOI. And just any other policies that we might want to think about for our special conditions. We've kind of talked about tree replacement and things like that. And then in terms of kind of open space and conservation, I've been working on a location on iNaturalist creating Breakneck Hill. You have to like do so many observations before you're allowed to edit anything. So I've been slowly but surely doing that. But there's other things we can do and things I can set up to even run while I'm on leave. So things like the Earth Day poster contest, doing some BioBlitz on iNaturalist throughout the year, promoting those and having people go out with their smartphones in identifying both endangered species, regular species, invasive, natives, anything. And sometimes it just gets people out and it shows people what's around. One thing that I've talked to Freddie about in the past is wanting to close down a portion of Oregon Road during vernal pool season. That's our lovely killing zone, as she likes to call it. And when talking with the DPW director, he wanted that request to come from Concom. So, talking with Open Space Preservation Commission, understanding what those needs might be, and coming up with a formalized plan for submittal, at least for, some sort of mitigation on Oregon Road, especially. One thing that's carried over is just having, we have a lot of good pages on the town's website, both on the recreation side and the trail side. But I think people also go to the Concom page a lot, and I have links to the various pages, but I think creating a specific page that has, a good outline of everything, both DCR, SOLF, Recreation, Trails Committee, just links of where to go, maps, it would be a good resource. So I have that kind of on my docket. And then, just what we just talked about, part-time position, really advocating for that. And then the last two are kind of related to the open space and rec plan, and then a potential MVP action grant, not for this upcoming FY, but the one afterwards. There's been a lot of talk, and it's in the master plan about a climate action plan. So that's something that I can start to look into. There's other communities that have done it and identified, some are very intense and, go everywhere from carbon emissions to just initiatives throughout town, vehicle use policies, which we have a little bit of. So kind of trying to identify what specifically we want to come out of what a climate action plan could be. And that's kind of the big picture. I again just pulled the goals from master plan and rec that are for this specific year and try to assess or try to assign a task that related to them within this year's goals. And then I also kind of did a summary of last year's goals and, how we accomplished or didn't accomplish them and how we're moving through. So a lot of these I identified, for the groundwater and wetland protection, etc. Flood risk areas could be that climate action plan. So that could take care of a lot of these. So it's not necessarily a this or next year goal, but the year after. So as long as we're working towards those. But we did, a lot of the general goals, we had some really good progress on. I think some of it will also come from getting this full-time position will allow me to do a little bit more. So I think we're making some good progress, I think, year throughout year. And I think these are definitely helping. I know they're helping me, try and put things in front of you to, better our understanding, progress, etc. So no official vote or anything needed, but if there are things, goals that you guys want to focus on next year, please feel free. Now in the future, this is always a working document. Bring it up, add it to the list, and this just helps me guide myself in what I'm going to be doing, you know, when we're away from permits.
Fantastic, thank you. I have to
Very nice.
remember this document for when your yearly review comes up. This is like, this is what I rack my brain trying to come up with, and now it's all written down in one place, so that's great.
I'll send it to you next time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Melissa.
Perfect.
All right, so you're up next.
Let's see. Open and active sites. So 200 Turnpike, Fussin O'Neill let us know that the contractor identified 3 existing catch basins that were not on the existing conditions plan, that were connected to some underground infiltration, but with no treatment, but they've connected it into the system. So myself and the town planner went out and met the engineer after we were made aware by our peer reviewer, you know, because they've been working towards trying to get that parking lot paved. So this is the contractor's yard that they've expanded, and the salt sheds going in. And so we have asked them, you know, if they could pave before plans close, they could. It's at their own risk, because they do need to submit documentation to both Concom and planning with background information on, you know, what the catch basins are, where they go, if there are going to be any upgrades to them. I think they were going to put some, forget if they were going to put sumps in them or some sort of filter unit. And then, you know, how it still meets the regs. So if they don't, you know, they're working within their risk, maybe they have to rip off the pavement next year and fix something. So they're well aware of that. We were hoping to get it for this meeting, but did not get anything, so I didn't put it on the agenda. But definitely moving forward, this is something that we've kind of pushed, you know, because this is kind of a big deal if they just have random catch basins going in, making sure they still meet the TSS removal, you know, water quality, etc.
This was one of Peter's projects, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, as long as they can get us the information in, this could be an administrative amendment, but we need the information in. Okay.
Yep. Farm dump. So heavy excavation is done. There's a minimal amount of final waste that's going to wrap up tomorrow. That's just kind of as they've been regrading the site, moving boulders, you know, whatever's kind of been caught up in that material, mostly like actual solid waste, cement, etc., is just being taken off in small increments. That all seems to be completed tomorrow. They're doing some light regrading for temporary stabilization over the winter and hammering some of the large boulders. So we're keeping boulders that are 3 feet and smaller in diameter to use as part of our restoration and to shore up some of the existing kind of areas along the property line where it's a very now kind of steep drop off. And then hammering away the larger than 3 feet boulders to use as backfill with proper compaction to save on some import of soil for final conditions. We're also going to be able to use the stone that they put down for the access road as some of the backfill as well. So really trying to come up with different solutions and alternatives to do a little bit of a cost savings, you know, because there are areas that went down to 10 feet, you know, there are kind of those little pockets. So, you know, we're doing some of that, putting some straw down next week, you know, because we're also getting that rain. So making sure that we don't get flooded out with this weird weather we've been having. And then we're still running on about $1 million under budget. There'll probably be one last change order for the remaining restoration work once we get that plan by mid-February, but that 1 million under includes my estimates for that change order. So it shouldn't be less than that. I think I told the treasurer, just to be safe, borrow 3.6 total out of our over 4.4 that's been appropriated. So very happy with that. We've had, you know, some great contractors. Just made this process very easy for me, and I love that. So, you know, once we get that draft restoration plan, I'll send it over, you know, both to stewardship and Concom so we can review, you know, and having the timeline, we will have approved restoration before I'm out on leave, which is the ultimate goal. So we're on track for that. Very excited. We are.
That's great news about the budget.
Wonderful. And Melissa, when will the trails reopen, the ones that like from the parking lot into Breakneck Hill?
I think I'm still trying to figure that out because there's still trucks coming in and out for now. There might be an ability to temporarily open them during a couple months during the winter, but it also might be safer and easier to keep that trail closed until restoration happens in the spring. You know, if we have a nice early winter, then that could be March, April, that restoration could commence. So it would be kind of a shorter lag time in between. So still trying to figure out because they'll be on site for at least another couple weeks, you know, in and out of there. So that's going to at least be closed for the rest of the month. And then we'll have a little bit better understanding of what the traffic will be and what allowances we can have for opening up that trail.
And again, I don't think it's widely recognized around town how much effort you put into this, and the fact that without you, I don't think we'd be looking at quite the cost savings. There, you know, having the grand total be so much less than the amount appropriated. But we recognize it, and we're very grateful for it. Thank you very much.
I'll admit, part of it's luck. I mean, part of it's luck. We have the facility that was had the availability. You know, part of it is we have a contractor that has a lot of resources and has, you know, this is what they do. So they know who to talk to, you know, they know who to call when they're not getting an answer. So I give a lot of kudos to them as well. And our engineering staff that have been on site every day, both environmental and asbestos. So they've been great. Their monitoring have been great. You know, it's been a huge burden off my back for their daily oversight. So
Great.
very thankful for that.
It's DEP happy?
DEP is happy. Yes.
That's
So
good.
we had our final asbestos and solid waste inspection. We'll probably have one more solid waste once all the boulders are hammered, etc. But yes, there was no concerns at either site visit. We have all of our tracking slips, weight, yada yada. So they've been good.
And does this get us out from the consent order, or is that still a longer term
It's
process?
still ongoing until we have kind of final stabilization. But in terms of compliance with the ACO, we are compliant. So it's weird because they're not considering some of this stuff to be covered under the ACO, you know, the environmental sampling afterwards. So they're not worried about that. Like, ironically, they're not really worried much about the restoration, just that all the stuff is out. So I think once the boulder management is done, they'll be happy, it sounds like. So it's an interesting mix, but yeah, I think we're close to. I don't know if we get some. I'm assuming we get some sort of letter stating we finished and whatever. So we'll work that out as we get. But yes, we had at least our done work final inspections for the excavation part. So
Melissa, can you tell us more about the stream? Like we haven't been over there to see it. You say there is a stream that was buried. Is it attractive? Is it big? Is it little?
I mean, I guess stream is a little bit of a over exaggeration at this point. But it's pretty clear, like when you're looking at some of the site plans that, you know, looking at some of the wetlands that didn't connect right now or pre-excavation, that, you know, as we've continued to dig out, there's, you know, this, I mean, for lack of better term, stream that has shown kind of some connection between these unconnected wetlands. You know, some of it's coming from where the pond on the private property is kind of in line with that following through. So, and it's, you know, all of the land used to kind of slope gently down towards that wetland stream area that's existing today. And so part of it is just offshoots that kind of connected with that dam area as well, and other separated, isolated wetlands. So this has turned into, in my opinion, from a conservation standpoint and from a, you know, wetlands perspective, a really nice wetland mitigation project. because we are getting down to what the natural elevation used to be. So we do not have to bring in as much material to get to conditions or, sorry, my brain is gone today, topography as what was pre-excavation. So in looking at it, and we're doing the survey now that everything's done, standing at the edge, you can kind of you can picture what the gentle slope used to be going down towards that wetland edge. So it's both kind of an expansion of existing areas, but also, kind of what was clearly buried in terms of those wetland connections. So they might not necessarily be streams. It's not, it might not be a free flowing body of water, but there's definitely an ability to kind of connect those isolated areas to have one holistic system again. So it'll move the resource area a little bit farther towards the trail, like not a huge amount, but it'll allow for a nice little viewing area, and I guess you could call it a replication area, for lack of a better term, unintentional replication, because you've dug down to that elevation where there are hydric soils.
Do you think it will be similar to some of the parts of Breakneck Hill, like when you're going through the community garden, like over that the place where the walnut tree is, there's like a big boggy area where there's a lot of things growing that are clearly wetland plants. Is it going to be like that?
Yeah, so I think it'll be more of a BVW, bordering vegetated wetland, versus, it's not going to be like a defined stream channel per se. There might be an ability to make that, but it'll be just kind of a nice naturalized wetland at the end of it. I think, with some loving TLC, some things will naturalize themselves, but we're definitely looking at both installation of wetland plants and upland plants, throughout the property. But we had their environmental scientists out with me a couple weeks ago, just looking at some of the areas and what possibly, what our options are and what the town would be interested in. And so I, was very much for an ability to create this naturalized wetland. Some communities don't necessarily want to do that, but it's in an area that's abutting the residential side, not necessarily an area that we're going to be using for high traffic. But it also could become, whether stewardship wants to use it for another pollinator garden or just educational viewing areas, things like that. I think we have a really great opportunity to have both some research and education for the general public, and be able to use that kind of as we have the rest of the property.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I know I wish I could take you guys down there. It's the asbestos regulated area, so even I don't go in that.
Yeah.
You can if you go to the fenced in area and follow the fence, you've got a nice spot where you can look down on everything because it's high enough above. So I would recommend to you guys, not the general public, doing that, because that area is still closed off. But if you want to get a view of it, kind of where the existing trail is closed down now, coming down through there into the wooded area, you get a nice view of the whole project.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Um,
All right,
and
so other business, the trustees have they're holding a private gathering of folks with some form of interest in the Chestnut Hill Farm property. I'll let Melissa give the details.
yeah, it sounds like it's just going to be an initial discussion of how to get the property to return to farming. I don't quite know, what the actual discussion was, but they invited myself and one commissioner. So I sent it to Ben to get his thoughts. If there is one other person that wants to go, we can request two. I wouldn't recommend three, only because that ends up at a quorum. But I believe they invited Al Hamilton from the select board. I saw him today and he mentioned it. I think they invited Pam Esty, who's the neighbor, and I'm not sure who others, but at least, you know, neighbors, and those who have been
Freddie
involved
was
with this.
invited.
Freddie was
Right.
invited.
Yeah.
That's good. So it's just a small discussion.
I would think it'd be good to have one more commissioner, and I'm open to who it would be. I'm the newest one, and there are people who have much more history than I do, but I think that this is an area where we have some responsibility as the Conservation Commission, and we should be at the table.
Absolutely. The CR is under our care and control, you know, and I was surprised when I heard about the meeting that I didn't realize that an invitation had been extended to Melissa. I was glad to hear that, because when I first heard it, I was surprised that I thought they hadn't reached out to conservation. I'm glad I was wrong on that. I too would like to have a second person go. There's I think a tendency within town government to try to just pick one person on a town body and try to have them act for the body as a whole. And I don't really care for that. So if either of you would like to go along, or if you both feel very, very strongly about going, you can go without me.
I feel very, very
like it.
strongly that Melinda should go. So-
So if this makes a difference, it's next Thursday from 4 to 5 at the Deerfoot Barn.
Let me look.
Yeah,
Because I might feel very strongly that Kevin should go.
He really threw that right for you.
I could do it.
great.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, the one thing that was in the invitation, the barn is currently not heated, so it said to dress warmly. Fantastic.
All right, and then just quickly, I'm gonna be on vacation between Christmas and New Year's, so the office will be closed. I think Laura's taking some time as well, so I'll post something on the website. And then one last thing, just so you guys are aware, the legislature passed another permit extension act. So anything that was valid, not issued specifically, but valid during January 1, 2023 to January 1, 2025, so even stuff we issued tonight, has a automatic 2-year extension to the expiration date. So things, I guess, keep that in mind as well. The things that we issue up until January 1 technically have a 5-year expiration. And this even retroactively makes some things come back active that were previously expired. So even if something, you know, expired January 2nd, 2023, it has a 2-year extension. So it has till January 2nd, 2025. So Laura and I have been going through our spreadsheets, you know, updating expiration dates. There's nothing that we need to do, but just as an FYI to you guys, that has commenced. This is very in line of what they did with the COVID tolling, and also what they did in 2008 for 2008 to 2012 with the economy downturn. So it's applicable to our decisions, to ZBA decisions, planning board decisions, building permits even. So it's very widespread. And I was also reading today that it also deleted language that site plan requirements currently have. I'm not as familiar, so I apologize. A 1-year to act, and they now have a 3-year to act.
Oh,
But
wow.
it sounds like that's a permanent because they deleted the language in the MGL, and that's not just in that time frame. So that's at least my understanding. So not that that directly affects us, but that is something, you know, that comes up a lot for major site plan approvals. If they haven't done, you know, the start of work within a year, then their thing is invalid. But now they will have 3 years.
Okay.
I think that's all.
All right. If there's nothing from anybody else, then we're just looking for my mind just went completely blank.
Adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. My goodness.
So moved.
Thank you. And the second?
Second,
Farrington,
yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Have a wonderful holiday, guys, because I won't see you till the new year.
Oh,
Melissa, thank you for everything this year.
Yeah, you too. Enjoy your time off.
Thank you. All right, I'll
Okay.
talk to you guys in the meantime, though. Don't you worry.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right.
Bye. All.